Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to replace your stabilizer shaft insulators. I'm going to make it quick, easy, and simple for you, and I'll even give you pages from the service manual, torque specs, and a little info sheet. Today I'm going to be replacing them with an aftermarket version which DDM sells on their website. I'll give you the info for those as well. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so today we'll be working on the passenger rear area. Now, the first thing we're going to do is remove the tire, and in order to remove the tire, we'll need a jack, some jack stands, and a wheel chock if you have them handy. Mine are already in place. To remove the lugs on your tire, you'll need either a 3/4 socket or a 19mm socket. Either or will work. Now, typically, when removing the lugs, you'll want to loosen them before you jack up the vehicle. But, depending on the drivetrain, such as ours being rear wheel drive, it's not typically necessary. Since it's connected to the drivetrain, it kind of keeps the wheel in place and it won't move. So even if you do jack the vehicle up and then try to loosen them, your wheels won't really move, unlike it would in the front. Like in my stabilizer link video, the tires would spin freely, but here it won't be the case, and I'll show you after the vehicle is jacked up. So we're going to go ahead and get these lugs off here. Now, when it comes to removing the tire and jacking up the vehicle, you'll want to find your jack point, which is right down here. And as you can see, I already have my jack puck in place. I set them in and they never move, so that's awesome. And as you can see here, there's some damage on the vehicle. Clearly, this damage was done before I put my jack pucks in, as with the jack puck in, there's plenty of room off the vehicle to prevent that damage. So whichever owner may have jacked up their vehicle, or whatever mechanic jacked up the vehicle, maybe it was even on a lift, they clearly did not have a jack pad or a buffer, and they caused damage to the vehicle. So if you ever go to jack up your vehicle, be sure to buy you some jack pads, and it'll save your vehicle from unnecessary damage. Alright, so I have all my lug nuts loosened except for the top one here, so I could show you an example of what I mentioned earlier. So as you can see, the tire doesn't move because it's connected to the drivetrain, unlike the front wheels, which would spin freely. So these don't. Now, I'm going to go ahead and loosen this so that y'all can see what I was talking about. So as you can see, the tire's not going to move. That lug nut's now loosened. Now, would I recommend that be, your new practice? Not really. I still think it's a good practice to loosen your lug nuts before jacking your vehicle up. Of course, I'm sure it could take the poundage. I mean, it takes 260 to, or even more on the wheel just itself when you're driving. So I'm sure 100 foot-pounds of torque ain't gonna hurt nothing. But it's still a good practice to loosen them beforehand. So that's what I'm going to stick by. Now that our tire is off, we can locate our stabilizer insulator, which, going into the wheel well, we can see the insulator is located right here on the back of this brace and on our stabilizer bar. Alright, so here we have our insulator. As you can see, it is only held on by 2 different bolts, and these are both going to be 15mm bolts. Now, there are 2 things we can do here. One, you can either replace just the insulation, which GM states all you have to do is loosen those bolts. That way you don't completely remove the bracket, and just slide the insulation out, which I will say there's not really a whole lot of room in here. Even if you do loosen it to like the last thread, there's not a whole lot of space to slide that insulation out, but you can do that. But what I'm doing today is I'm removing both the bracket and the insulation as I'm replacing it with a new kit. So I'm just going to be removing those bolts here. And off goes the bracket. And then with the insulation, we can slide that over a little bit. And as you can see, there's a little gap here. This gap, you can open it up and slide it through. It may be kind of difficult, but slide it through if you can, like so. And that, just like that, your insulation and bracket are removed. Alright, so here we have the two insulators. Obviously there are some big differences here. Here's the old one, this is the factory OEM, and this is the new aftermarket one. Obviously, you know, this one's much bigger, it's chunkier, and it also seems like the rubber, which is used to insulate, it's a lot thicker from one side at least, but it still does have quite a bit of insulation there. But as you can see, it definitely did need to be changed. I had a crack starting to form on this, and it's getting pretty hard. It's not very flexible or malleable as it used to be. Obviously, the bracket is much bigger as well compared to the old one. The new one here is it's a lot smaller. I believe this is brass. I'm not sure what material this is, but anyways, it does look a little thinner. Well, a lot thinner actually, compared to the other one. Now, granted, technology has come a long way in the past, what, 15 odd years, you know? So whether this is just, you know, whether maybe it provides something different, I'm not sure. I forgot what material it's made, polyurethane, I think. I don't really remember. But anyways, that's going to be the differences between the two here. So whether you choose to switch over or not, I'll let you be the deciding factor of that. But I'll let you know how this affects my ride later on when I get them all changed over. Alright, now before we install the new insulator, see all this dirt and grime and stuff? We're going to want to get all that off. So grab a baby wipe or a wet towel or something like that. I'm just using a baby wipe. Just wipe off the whole area. Make sure it's nice and clean. You don't want no dirt, no grime, no nothing in there. You want that baby as clean as a whistle. After you clean it, then you can install your new one. Alright, now that our area is clean, we can install our new insulator. Now the GM service manual does state that you do need to use silicone spray on this area. So I got me some DW40 silicone spray, and we're going to spray down that area. And it does specifically mention a silicone spray. So now that that's sprayed, I'm going to take my new insulator here and try to wiggle it around this gap here, if I can do that. Alright, there we go. Now, I'm going to slide this over, if it'll let me. There we go. And now that it's on there, I'm going to kind of twist it a little bit, just so that I can make sure that it's all on the inside of that insulator. Get it centered. Then, grab my bracket. And what I'm going to do here as well, I'm going to go ahead and spray the inside, or the outside of that insulator as well, so that the bracket will be lubed up as well. There we go, and as you can see, come on, a little up, there you go. Go. And as you can see, this bracket here, it does have a grease nipple. So if you had some industrial grease or something like that, you could use that. But I don't have any, so I'm just going to use the silicone spray. And then one other thing I would like to point out as well is, unlike the front, this one you can just kind of slide on your insulator and not have to worry about a thing. But in the front, kind of like in the Stabilizer link video, you'll have to raise the whole assembly because that coilover pushes down on that insulator just like it does the link. So you will have to grab a second jack for the front ones to get that insulator in. But in the back here, you don't really have to do that. It may be a little tight since these are aftermarket ones, but you don't need a second jack. And just like that, all I gotta do is tighten these up, but you pretty much got that done there. Alright, now that I got those snug on there, I'm gonna torque them down. The torque spec on these is going to be 55 Newton meters or 41 foot-pounds of torque. And with the spot that it's in, very easy to get to. Come on. Alright, that was good. And that one's good there. Those are torque to spec. And that's how you're going to install your insulator. Now that we're finished with that, we can go back to installing the tire, and then we're done with this procedure. Alright, so I got my tire on here. I don't have my lugs completely torqued on yet, just tightened, of course, as it's still jacked up. Now whenever you go to tighten your lugs, remember it's the star formation. You don't want to just go all the way around the world. You want to make sure to go one across on each other to make sure it's fully seated against the hub. Now whenever you torque these on, remember as always it's 100 foot-pounds of torque or 140 Newton meters. Just be sure to torque it down after you've set the vehicle down. And other than that, you've completed this procedure. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. I hope it helped you out today. I want to remind y'all to be sure to check out my website, the Kaswell Kappa Center. It's got a lot of great info on there regarding the Kappa platform, so be sure to check it out. Alright, well that's all I have for you today. Be sure to check me out next time. Until then.